The LPN. Imagine nostalgia.
Ah, what a classic. That was the Hugs with their 1979 hit single, Coriander Commander. Before that, you heard the subtle, sweet melodies of Earth to Pay's new tune, You Gonna Eat That, followed by the 1976 opus from experimental Grand Rapids artist Gordon Norton entitled Sibling Situation. We're coming to the top of the hour now at WTVU, and we just would like to take a moment today to go.
Don't worry, there is nothing wrong with your device. Wherever you are in the world, hello and welcome. My name is Louis Prince, and while I'm sure you hate to miss Shael Shepherd's sultry sounds of the 70s, you are now listening to the Louis Prince Radio Hour. But lest the name deceives you folks, like me, you're probably wondering what the hell is going on. Well, your guess is as good as mine. I was merely given some cue cards and plopped in front of a microphone. What I can tell you, though, is that the stories and transmissions you are about to hear come from the fringes of an undetermined reality. They occur at random, and their purpose is entirely unknown, at least for the time being. I'm now being told to say thank you and to hand things over to someone named Jason for the weather report. I'm not sure if I'll be back, so if this is our final moment together, I hope that it's been as strange for you as it has been for me. Maybe our paths will cross again soon. Jason?
This week's forecast, it's going to be unseasonably warm. Monday, sunny, high of 91, low of 70. Tuesday, also sunny, high of 84, low of 64. Wednesday, sunny, high of 84, low 63. Thursday, sunny to partly cloudy, 84, 61 degrees is the low. And this Friday, it's going to be sunny and 91 with a low of 61 that evening. Saturday, 30% chance of rain. It's going to be high of 88 degrees, low 70. And Sunday is also a 30% chance of rain. High of 86 degrees with a low of 68 degrees. And that's your week's forecast. Going to take some questions now from our listeners. We always appreciate your questions and your queries. Cold Feet in Woodbine ask, my wedding is next Friday and we have no rain contingency because my fiance is Buddhist and doesn't believe in weather, per se. My question is, can we expect rain between the hours of 3 p.m. and 9 p.m.? And secondly, do you believe that there is no eternal, unchanging soul, that, quote, self is just a... Jesus Christ, this question. My first question is, can we expect rain between the hours of 3 p.m. and 9 p.m.? And secondly, do you believe that there is no eternal, unchanging soul, that self is just a collection of changing characteristics or attributes? You know, that's very hard to determine whether or not there'll be rain, especially in this time that we're in. It's unseasonably warm. You know, my advice to you, Cold Feet, is I think you need to ask whether or not you should be marrying someone. Do you want to do that? Do you want to wake up in the morning and have no freedom? Sure, somebody's there telling you happy birthday, but do you really want to be married? Do you want to make that mistake? I wake up whenever I feel like it. I drink little or no coffee at all. I might take 15 minutes to eat a banana, or I might take a few seconds. Doesn't matter. I answer to no one. That's all the time that we have. Thank you for your questions. I live inside of my head, and I'm trying to find my way out.
Hey everybody, welcome to It's Nighttime. I'm your host, Phil Gillip. I'm having a good time. Tune in every weeknight at 11:10 p.m. Central, only on LPN.
It's Nighttime with Phil Gillip.
And now we present Conversation with a Manatee.
I don't know how we got into conversation exactly. And I don't mean that in the way that you and Mike are talking about the price of jet fuel and forgot how you got there. I mean, I don't know how it happened, the physics of it. Here's what I know. My wife was doing water yoga at the community pool, and I decided to take a walk to the river. I didn't have my phone on me, and I was thinking about how I used to think on these walks when I didn't have a phone, and wondering where to start. Thinking, I mean. Cigarettes were great for thinking, and I didn't have one of these either. I hadn't had a cigarette in years. I was on my own. I first noticed the odd spider-like trees growing on the banks, their slim branches growing out of the trunk and down into the water like smooth tentacles. I tried thinking about them, but didn't get very far. I couldn't remember their name. I had heard it once, and I felt automatically from my phone. It was a mangrove tree, I found out later, but this turned out to be irrelevant, as just then, I noticed something in the water. It was large and round, and it bubbled up from the water like the shell of a giant sea turtle. I knew at once it wasn't a turtle. In fact, it wasn't a great many things people had called this animal. Pirates called them mermaids, pilgrims called them sea demons, and Southerners called them river cows. As for me, I didn't have these hang-ups. I knew right away what it was because I was educated. This was a manatee. It was close to the bank, and I walked toward it for a closer look. I leaned over politely, feet together with my hands in my pockets, as if there was some velvet rope I should respect. I was so used to observing wildlife under the restrictive eyes of some zoo employee or overzealous aquarium janitor, I had forgotten how to behave in the wild. I squatted down, inched toward the water, and smiled warmly, the way one smiles at a suspicious child. I said, "Hey, little buddy." Suddenly, the manatee drifted toward me. I was startled. I thought about moving back, but my education prevailed. Manatees were harmless.
Thanks for coming,
it said. Wait, what? It said that? Its long, ghostly gray snout surfaced and hovered in the shallows, hippo-like. There was no indication where a voice could come from. I looked behind me.
In here.
I turned back to the manatee.
In your head, Chuck. In your head like a goddamn psychic.
Suddenly dazed, I patted my shirt pocket for a cigarette.
You're not crazy, kid. You're a little different. That's why I called.
What? I said out loud to the manatee in the water. I laughed at myself now, talking to a manatee.
Have it your way, but I don't have much time. What do you want? Or rather, how do you want it?
How do I want it?
How do you want to die?
I don't want that, I said, and took a step back. The manatee rolled over wearily, his belly to the sky, and sighed.
Why me?
It was then that I noticed them. Scars, everywhere. Some small, some so large I didn't know how he had survived them. His round, hulking body was a small galaxy of gashes, nicks, and dings. We did that? I said, appalled.
Huh?
A boat, I mean?
A boat, a canoe, a stick, a tin can, a chainsaw, machete, a longbow, a railroad spike, a jackhammer. It's all the same.
A longbow?
A long story. But let's not make this about me.
I plopped to the ground, overwhelmed with a sudden vicarious guilt. I clutched my head. The suffering of this poor, dumb animal. Why do people do this to you? I asked.
People do lots of things if you ask nicely.
You ask them?
I'm a cutter.
He said this casually, like friends of mine had learned to call themselves alcoholics in public. No way, I protested. It's not your fault if a speedboat full of assholes rides over you like a lawnmower, I said, illustrating abstractedly with my hands.
It is if you called them.
How could you call them?
Like I called you, Chuck.
Alan.
You're all Chucks and Janices to me. Let's get on with this. You want it slow, fast? You want someone to find the whole cadaver, or a few pieces, or nothing at all?
He had said these words in an odd, delicious way, like he was planning a steak dinner. I looked at him askance, putting 2 and 2 right up next to each other. You're sick, I concluded. You like it. The pain.
It's not the pain I want. I'm no sadist. It's death.
Well, at the rate you're going, I don't think you have to worry, and you won't get my help, I said, crossing my arms.
I gave up the dream a long time ago. It's no use.
Oh, that's the spirit. How long ago?
How old do you think I look?
He asked this coyly. I'm not falling for this, I said. I'd walked into this before. The trap laid by middle-aged women to see how willing you are to lie to them. If you're right, they're offended. If you're wrong, you're a real idiot. But as I looked at it now, really looked at it, the animal looked ancient.
I heard all of that. I'm not offended, but you are a real idiot. I'm 4.5 billion years old.
Impossible.
Let me ask you, you ever seen a dead manatee?
No, I thought to myself. Yes, I said out loud.
Where?
He had me here.
You ever seen a pregnant manatee? A baby manatee? A teenage manatee?
I was speechless.
They don't exist. I'll give you one last chance, Chuck. What'll it be? Death? Or life?
Stop creeping me out.
You're pretty cheery for a suicidal.
I'm not suicidal. I'm just out for a walk.
Sure you are. If you don't have a death wish, why else would I be here?
What? What are you? Like the Grim Reaper of the suicidal?
The fairy godmother.
Well, you've mistaken me for someone else. Now, if you'll excuse me, I began indignantly, not unlike some Jane Austen protagonist who had heard quite enough from Mrs. So-and-so about such and such.
If you're not a suicidal, smart guy, then how come you think about death so much?
That's not what I think about. I think about life, okay?
You don't think about life. You think about not dying. You think about death interrupting life, not about life itself. And worse, you think about death most especially when you're just starting to enjoy life. The more fun you have, the more threatened you are by life because it makes you think more clearly about death, so you don't have fun. Same with the people you love. The more you love them and the more they love you, the more you think about losing them or them losing you, so you keep your distance. You compare everything with death, you sicko. You're obsessed with it. You can't eat an apple without fantasizing about choking on it.
I was dumbfounded. It's not that he was right, exactly. It's that he wasn't wrong.
I don't blame you. Look at me.
I looked at his gashes.
But let's call a spade here. You're like me. You're a cutter. You have a death wish masquerading as a survival instinct. And poof, along comes a friendly, talking manatee to grant it.
Like a genie who only grants one wish, I thought profoundly.
Like a genie who only grants one wish.
You give people the one thing you can't give yourself, I pondered.
Ironic, isn't it?
My mind reeled as I took this in. I felt a sudden and deep melancholy wash over me like cold water. It was a few seconds before I realized it was real cold water, and I was being dragged under it. I had taken a blow to the head. I was paralyzed, like one of those waking dreams where you can't move. I tried to scream. I tried to resist. The manatee had me by the foot, and I was powerless. I heard a faint noise, dreamlike, as I drifted from the shore. It was music. It was coming from the manatee. The manatee was whistling a show tune. I even recognized it. It was unmistakable. It was the title song from Meet Me in St. Louis, starring Judy Garland. He whistled it perfectly, listlessly, as he dragged me slowly, methodically into the deep. For him, as easy and mundane as taking out the trash. I wasn't his first. I wasn't his last. He had done this grim job for 4.5 billion years at least, and he would do it for an eternity to come. I thought about death. It wouldn't be long now. The thing I had always feared. Or was it the thing I had always wanted? What did I know anymore? I thought I was so educated. Manatees were harmless, I said. Manatees were innocent victims, I said. We were deep now. The whistling of the manatee was growing more faint and muffled.
Don't tell me the lights are shining any place but there.
I looked up through the water toward the light, fading slowly as we went further down into the deep. I'll never have to worry about losing the light ever again, I told myself. I won't have to worry about losing anything ever again. It was a kind of relief dying, I thought. Like being on the run from the police for years and years for some high crime, and then suddenly being surrounded on all sides, guns drawn, no more running, no more paranoia. The jig was up. The jig was down.
We will dance the hoochie-coochie. You will be my tootsie wootsie if you meet me in St. Louis, Louis.
My body was warm now, my chest pounding. I was out of oxygen, and it was almost time to open my mouth. Suddenly, out of the haze, she emerged, in person. She was pale, she was beautiful, she was Judy Garland. She had me in her arms now, my head in her soft, wet lap. She stroked my hair as we sank together. She tried to dry my tears, but that was impossible. I don't want to go, I told her. She nodded in maternal understanding. She didn't want to go either. The main thing is, Alan, she began, her lush, throaty voice gurgling out in quivering empathy, that we're all going to be together, just like we've always been. That's what really counts. We could be happy anywhere, as long as we're together. It was a lie. She knew it. I knew it. Being together wasn't enough. We didn't have shit if we didn't have St. Louis. It was St. Louis or nothing at all. This thought felt like the most true thought I had ever had. The last thought I ever would have. My limp hand touched something. It was the bottom of the river.
Lie down. That's it. It won't be long now.
I felt the manatee's body on top of me now, slowly resting itself over me like a weighted blanket. Then I felt something else. It was cold to the touch, colder than the water, and hard. The manatee was on my chest now. The air was dribbling out of my mouth with the force of his body. I gripped the object suddenly. It was a bottle, a glass bottle. I squeezed it. St. Louis, I moaned.
Say what?
As I said, I couldn't tell you how the conversation started, how it was that we spoke to each other, or how exactly I ended up at the bottom of the Imperial River in Bonita Springs, Florida. I also couldn't tell you how exactly the conversation ended.
Alan? Alan?
Came my wife's voice from somewhere as I opened my eyes. She was like an angel in black yoga pants. You look beautiful.
You look like shit! What happened?
Before I could answer, she screamed, the murderous, blood-curdling kind as she pointed, horror-struck, down the shore.
What is that?
I looked over at the bloody mass of gray flesh near me, guts dribbling out of its bulk from several gaping wounds, a broken Heineken bottle stuck firmly between its black, lidless eyes. It's a manatee, I said. It's a dead manatee.
The Louis Prince Radio Hour is a division of the LPN. It is produced and edited by Louis Prince. Written by Daniel Shepherd and AJ Gibboney. All music and sound designed by Louis Prince. Conversation with a Manatee was written by Daniel Shepherd. Alan is played by Daniel Shepherd. Manatee by Jordan McGee. Wife played by Emily Barbee. Our weather report is by Jason Goforth. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you again soon.